Right, hello everybody, this is just a quick video to show you how to use the webstar Optoserve software for inputting your IOP repeat measurements. It's pretty self-explanatory software, just for those that are either a little bit computer illiterate or struggle a little bit with it. This is just a helpful video to help you get through. So basically, very simply, you just log on to www.optomanager.co.uk up the top there. I'm going to be toggling between a different site, which is a test site, just so I can put on patients without interfering with the software, but this is our actual live site that's running, that I use at the practice that I'm using at the moment. But basically, if you go to www.optomanager.co.uk, it'll come up with asking you for your username. Now that username should have been sent to you by webstar, and you should have been given a password as well to get in, that'll allow you to get started. So just type in your username in there, hit the sign in button, and then obviously it's like a bank security code. You just need to put in the different digits from your password. So you know, your password I think is an 8-digit number, and it's going to ask you for the 1 to the 7th or random numbers out of that. So let me try and remember mine. So let's see. Right, so that will then take you into the main module. Alright, now with the Optoserve software, there's the ability to add in different modules. Now, Oxfordshire only has the intraocular eye pressure, repeat measurements with Goldman tonometer, but in time what we're hoping to do is add in, we've had approval for the OHT, so hopefully we'll be having another module for OHT. Those practitioners that then sign up to the LEDs for that will have next this intraocular eye pressure one, they have another one that will say OHT, and so on and so on. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to be going through the intraocular eye pressure one, so you just click on that and that takes you into your main screen. So very simply, just to run through this, obviously you've got your menu on your left hand side, alright, and then you've got the information that each menu will give you. Now the first thing that you're going to want to do in the Optoclaim menu one is go down and set everything up. So here you've got an admin, alright, and it allows you to set up your practitioners, your site test tonometer, and your repeat tonometer. Now just by setting these up, it just streamlines the process. So if I just first of all go into the site test tonometer, alright, so you want to set your default site test tonometer. For me, I use a Pulsar, so it's a non-contact tonometer, and if I just save that in there, and then you'll see when we come to adding a patient later on, it'll automatically put that in, so you don't have to do it every time. It just speeds up the process. So the next one is to set up the repeat tonometer. That could either be a Goldman tonometer or it could be a Perkins, because we're allowed to use both under the Oxfordshire scheme. I use the Goldman, so I'm going to save that in there. And then the last one is to add your practitioners. Alright, so manage your practitioners, and I think I've already added myself here, so I've got myself added in there. But let's say you just want to add another practitioner. Let's put we'll make up a GOC number 1669. Now they will need to add in their sign-off number, and that sign-off number is a personal private number for that practitioner, so that they can sign off at the end of this. Now the reason for that is that a lot of the time you might get your administrative staff to put in all the details, the address and that sort of stuff, and I'll show you that in a minute, and then at the end you just come through as a practitioner, check it, make sure they've put everything in correctly so it's got the right IPs, and then sign off, so you're approving what they've done. And I find that's the easiest way, so I just put my tonometry measurements on my normal record. I then tell one of the staff members downstairs that I've done the IOP refinement. They'll fill it all in on the system, save it, and then at the end of the day I just come in and sign off at the end, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 for this one, and 1, 2, 3, 4 for this one, and then save that. Alright, so now we've got the 2 practitioners. Obviously you can add in as many practitioners as you like, as long as they are accredited, because it will pop up with their name when you print it off, and webstar obviously has to check that against accredited practitioners, so make sure they are accredited practitioners that are using that. And basically that's all the administrative side that you need to do to set it up in the beginning. There is obviously another bit to the administrative side, which is the invoices, but I'll come to that right at the end. Alright. Then basically the other 2 parts of the menu on the left hand side is obviously your patient side. Alright, that you can view all your patients that you've been doing over all time, and that would include patients you've done over all time. So if I sort of just toggle that back to my own one, and I view all patients, obviously there's going to be a big list of patients that we have seen down there. Go back to that one. You can view just the active patients, the patients that are actively either in the system waiting for another IOP repeat, waiting to be signed off, ones that you haven't finished with, if I could put it that way. And then obviously you can view your inactive patients, are the ones that you've actually finished with at the end, so you can separate it up. That obviously there's the add new button, which I'll do in a second, and this referral delivery status, which is important, so you can check to make sure the faxes have been sent on your behalf, and that the GPs have got those faxes. Okay, so if I then just also look at the last one, which is the downloads button there, the only download that we've got in there is your IOP patient information leaflet. Now what I tend to do with this, instead of going into the downloads and printing it off for each patient that comes in sort of a long-winded way of doing it, I have one laminated copy that I have upstairs, which I give to the patient to read, just to let them know what we're doing basically, and I have a whole lot of pre-printed ones that I can obviously give to the patient if they want to take one home with them. I just find that a lot of the patients might just read them and throw them straight into the bin, so what I tend to do is just use a laminated one, so it's paper, and most of them just have a good read through it, and I'm really just explaining what I'm doing as well to them anyway. What I'd like to do as well is get them to add in the download section, just get them to add the LES in there as well, so that you can view the LES, because often what happens is your contractor gets the LES and the Optom doesn't have the LES, and it's sometimes just nice to refresh your memory on the protocols and that sort of stuff on the LES, although we have tried to get the software to do that. Okay, so that's pretty much all the basic side. It's pretty self-explanatory on the side. There's not much difficulty in that at all. Just in case you have any problems, you can phone Optoserve for help. The number is really well hidden in the corner there. I don't know if that's done on purpose or whatever, but they are very helpful if you phone them. If you have any problems with using the software in any way, just give them a shout. If you have any queries with payments and that sort of stuff, you can phone them, but if they've processed the payment and you just haven't been paid, then you have to phone the PCT to find out where your money is really. Okay, so let's go through step by step of putting a patient through. So if I went to view all my patients, alright, so they're all the ones that are on the system. I want to now add a new patient into the system. Alright, so Joe Bloggs has come along, had an IOP. I measured the pressures at over 21, and I think they need to have this refinement done. So you have to go through a tick box procedure to make sure that it's trying to make sure that you don't make any mistakes. It's a tick box system to make sure you've done everything, and obviously it'll reject you if you haven't done the right thing. So does this patient meet the IOP and age criteria for repeat IOP measurements? Now, if you're not sure, click on the little I. It'll bring it up, and it tells you what the age-related norms are, so that you get it right. So I would say to this one, yes, definitely. If you click no, at the end when you try and go through, it's not going to let you go through. So yes, is the final IPSI test over 21? Yes, for this patient. If it's over 30, you have to do a direct referral, so they don't make the criteria for this IOP referral refinement. So if you tick yes, then again it wouldn't allow you to proceed any further, because so if I just put here yes and try and save there, it's going to say it's not suitable for this system and kick you out. So basically you've got to answer the right questions to get through. It's just that double checkbox system. So I would say no, it's not over 30 there. Have you checked the visual fields? You've got to have checked the visual fields in order for them to participate in this scheme, so yes. Are there any other signs of glaucoma detected during the sight test? If you had noticed notching or field loss or pseudo-exfoliation that you thought was likely to cause glaucoma, you're obviously not going to put them through the system. They need to go for a referral to the glaucoma system. It's pointless doing a refinement and charging the NHS money if you're going to refer them anyway. So this is for those ones with just repeat high pressures. Okay, so if you hit save, then it'll allow you through. Now basically it asks you here just the consent form for the patient. So this is where you would go, print out your little leaflet or give it to the patient, explain it to the patient however you want to do it so that they understand, inform them that you're going to be keeping a copy on the software and also a copy that goes to the GP just for them to update it, so they just know all the data protection information. So once you tick yes, it'll allow you to put in the patient details. Now as I said, what I do here is I just tell one of the administration staff downstairs that I've done the IOP, and they will do all of this for me. So you just tick in Miss, let's put excuse my slow typing. And it's got a postal code finder, so if you just put in the postal code finder and hit find address, it'll find the address for you. It tends to wait a little while, so I tend to carry on filling stuff in as we go along. Now this source of referral is either going to be a GP referral or an own referral. So under the new system you can get GP referrals. Unfortunately you probably haven't had a GP referral. I haven't had one yet, or I might have had one. But the GPs don't quite fully understand the system yet, and I think it's just going to take us a little bit of time to educate them on how to do it before you start getting GP referrals. But make sure you do tick the right one if it's one of your own or if it is GP, because obviously it's different in funding. So under the normal one you'll get £25, under the GP one you'll get £40 for that referral. But remember, you need to repeat the fields and you need to repeat the optic disc assessment that you would normally do. Oh, didn't find that address, not quite sure why. Oh, it did. So I'll stick it in there. So it's own patient. GP surgery, obviously I've only got test GP here, but if I just quickly toggle across to this one and just hit add new, so let's just go So I just want to show you on the actual software that it will bring up all the GP surgeries. Now if you have a patient that is not on one of these GP surgeries, they are not eligible for the IOP referral requirement. So just remember that, especially if you're practicing on the borders, they need to be registered within the GP surgeries that are listed there. If they aren't, they are not eligible for the IOP referral requirement, and if you do it, you just won't get paid because they don't know where to take the money from. It is a bit of an issue with cross borders, something that we are looking at trying to sort out, but politics is very difficult between the different areas. So at the moment, make sure it's on that list. Sorry, this one doesn't have the list, I'm just putting test GP. You don't have to put in the NHS number. All the ones that are red are obviously mandatory ones. Ones without, you don't have to, but if you do have the NHS number, it's helpful. Obviously you need date of the site test. I'm going to leave that as today because I'm doing it today. Obviously, as I said, it would automatically bring it up because I'd set my my site test tonometer as the NCT, but obviously if you, for some reason, use something else, you could change it if you wanted to, but it just streamlines the process. So let's say I found with this patient 23 and 23, and it was at 12 o'clock during the day, and then I'd done the Goldman, and it ended up being 19 and 19. And then I also did that 5 minutes later, so 12 o'clock that day. So that's everything filled in there. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to go back and change this to 20. just to show you that if I put it in at below what it should be, the software will actually stop you and say, well, you've got measurements of 20, which are pretty normal. Why are you doing the IOP refinement? And it's a good check just to make sure you're putting in the figures right, because sometimes you put in your Goldman figures there by mistake, and then it'll stop you from doing it. And also, if you just made an error in any way, it should stop you doing it. So I'll go back and put the 23s in there. Came out at 19. And basically, it's pretty self-explanatory. It tells you what to do at the end. So basically, it says the IOP at first repeat of both eyes is less than 21. Patient is aged less than 65 years, and there is less than a 5 difference between the two eyes. So hence, you don't need to do anything else. That's it. You just sign the patient off. Now, if you can imagine this was a staff member filling it in, not me filling it in, what they would do is just hit save, alright, and that then saved the patient in. And if we look for Jessie Jackson, that I've just done there, you'll see that there's an A next to their name, and that says just patients awaiting practitioner sign off. So at the end of the day, I as the optom would come in, all I do is I go to the little edit button next to their name, click on that, go through and make sure those were the pressures that I saw, those were my repeats, everything looks correct. Save, hit practitioner sign off, and it was Susie Smith, let's say, who did it, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hit sign off. Alright, now that has now signed the patient off. It's completed the whole process. You have to hit print report. There's the report. So it basically tells you who it is. It'll put in the GP's address there, tells you everything what to do, and it gives the GP clear information. So it says, after repeated measurements, your patient detail above has been identified as having a suspicious raised intraocular pressures. But what is the action? No action. This is for the GP information only. The IOP is not consistently raised when measured by repeated applanation tonometry. Patient discharged to routine care. So basically, it's just to inform the GP that you've done this repeat IOP measurement, but everything is fine. And all you do is you just pop that in the mail to them. Alright. So the request and how we set up the system was, I'm just going to close that, was that if it's a normal patient and everything comes out fine, you don't need to refer the patient, you will just post the GP a copy. So it actually tells you there, press print report, you should print a copy for your records and send a copy to the GP. That's it's self-explanatory, tells you what to do with that. Right. And then once you've done that, that is that patient completed. If I then went to view active, you'll notice that patient is actually gone. If I view to the inactives, she's there, because you're now finished with the patient, so it takes it off your active list. Alright. So that was putting on a new patient, and a patient that then on the first repeat, the pressures were below 21, so all cleared off normally. Now if I just go to the patients that I've got on my view all list here, so we've got some patients here that I put on earlier. So, for instance, we've got here Mr. Peter Jackson. Now, he came in, also high IOPs. I did the initial pressure measurement with the Goldman tonometer, and I'm just going to show you what those were. So if I just hit edit there. So they originally were 23 and 22, and they ended up coming out as 21 and 22. So when we pressed save there, it would have said to us, when I initially did this, that the IOP at first repeat of at least one eye is greater than 21, patient age less than 65 years. Please repeat the IOP on a different day, and you'll need to get the patient back in to do that, basically. So that patient then pops up on this list, alright, and you just either ask the patient to arrange an appointment in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, or whatever you'd like to do it, preferably in the next month is good. And this little 2 basically on the side here tells you that that patient, I'm just going to make them so the active one is only so the other ones go away. So that tells you that it has been 2 weeks since that patient had theirs. So there was the initial one, 6th of the 8th, 13. So now we're 2 weeks down the line. and it's just giving you a timeline, so it either does 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Alright. Now the difference between the 2 weeks and the 4 weeks is that at the 4 weeks, you'll notice just on the side here under action, it gives you the option to refer. Now this one won't give you the option to refer, because we set the timeline at 4 weeks before you could refer to give the patient enough time to come back. But if the patient doesn't respond, so you say to them, please come back for a repeat in a week, they don't in 2 weeks, they don't in 3 weeks, they don't in 4 weeks, and you're thinking, well, actually, I don't know if this patient is actually going to come back at all. It gives you the option to then refer the patient without doing the second IOP repeat measurement. But you have to wait for 4 weeks' time to elapse before you can do that. So if it's 2 weeks, you're going to have to wait until 4 weeks before referring that patient. So let's say Mr. Peter Jackson does come back, and he comes back today, and we're going to do the repeat measurement. Again, you're just going to add IOP. You just put the date, so that is today's date. It's Goldman, and let's say this time it came out at 22. Let's say it actually came out at below, so 21 and 20. So if I press save, it basically tells you again, second repeat, below 21, so everything's normal, you don't need to do anything. The staff would then obviously put that in and save it, but I'm just going to go straight to practitioner sign off. And then sign it off again, and again it'll tell you pretty straightforwardly, print a copy and send it to your GP. So you'd hit print, the pop-up is the PDF, you just print off the PDF, send it to the GP. As simple as one. Keep one in your records. Now you can either print that off and scan it onto your records as we do in our practice, but it's going to keep it on WebStar forever. So as long as you've got access to WebStar, you don't technically have to do that, but we just do it as part of our process. So if I then just go back to that list again and view actives, you'll notice Peter Jackson has disappeared again. He'll be on the inactive ones because we've now completed with him. So if I go back to the view actives, now we've got 2 other ones here, alright. One that's awaiting a sign off. Now I put this on ages ago, yeah, in April times. So I'll show you what to do with that one. Now this one here, you'll see there's 4 for Julie Jackson. And we can either add the second IOP if she came in for that. But let's say it's now been 4 weeks. We phoned her and she says, I really don't want to come back for this IOP repeat measurement. And you explain to her that under the NICE guidelines you need to refer her to have this done at the eye hospital because it's precautionary. It would be prudent to do so to send them in, and that's what the guidelines tell us. And if she says yes, that's fine, refer me in, what you would do is hit the refer button, and now it asks you for a little bit more information. So when you're referring the patient, you have to add a little bit more into this process. So you put in a telephone number for the patient, so if it's urgent they can contact them. That's the site test. You have to put in the prescription into here, so let's just put plus. Sorry, I'm on the laptop and it's a pain putting in numbers. Again, I tend to get the staff to put these in for me, and I just basically sign off at the end. Yeah, I remember there's something weird with these axes. You've got to put in the space. I think it's 89.0. I must get them to change that because it's a pain. And then you put in the visual acuity. Let's say that was the visual acuities. Reading ad. 6. if you want to, you can put that in. It just helps them. It just helps them, but you don't have to. Again, the red ones are mandatory ones. The ones without the red, you don't have to put in. And this basically is a cup-test ratio, just to help the eye hospital as they go across. Okay. So once you've now put that in, all right, it's just the details. Oh, so I need to put that in. Okay, so now you do have to put that in the reading ad. Sorry, just pause for a second. So basically I hit the save button there, and then it's brought me through to this. So it's got down everything that I filled in there, the 612 duties, reading ads, etc. It also basically says that the second eye repeat is overdue by 4 weeks. Alright. And then it's going to ask you to sign off for this one for the referral. Now, you've always got some options with this referral. So if you're going to clear this patient off and they need to be referred, you have to hit refer, but you do have some options to change what you did there. So one of those is, if you scroll down here, right, is that there's an action required, and then you'll see these ones are all no action required. And this is for the GP, because once you hit the refer button, it is going to automatically send this to the GP. So all the ones that I said that you're not referring, you print off and you send to the GP. All the ones that are referred are going to get automatically faxed to the GP. It's just to make sure that it's a safer system, so it's just automatic. Now you could also print it and post it to them if you wanted to, but the system is designed to be faxed directly to them so that they get the print-offs, and all the GP surgeries know that this is going to be happening. Alright. So basically the one that you're going to press the most of the time is action required. Using the choose and book system, please set up a referral. Basically that's what it's saying. Alright. If you then decide, so let's say Mrs. Jackson came in and she didn't come back for her second repeat, and you phoned her and you said, look, Mrs. Jackson, you need to come in for that second repeat. She says, oh, I really don't want to do it. And you say to her, well, it's going to be necessary for us to refer you because of the NICE guidelines. And she says, no, I don't want to be referred to the eye hospital. I really don't. And I'm not going to go, etc., etc. You've obviously got the option here to choose no action required. The patient has refused onward referral, hence this is just for your notification. It puts that responsibility into the GP's hands, as the GP then decides, actually, I'm not happy with that, the patient must go for this refinement. They can phone them and get them to come in and do it. And so it still creates that referral, but it just tells the GP what to do with this patient. So it's still going to go automatically to them, but it just tells them what the patient has said to you. Alright. The other one that no action required is that the patient wishes to be referred privately, which we have done, and hence this is just for your notification. So they say to you, yeah, Miss Jackson says, I don't want to come in for a repeat measure. I wasn't happy with how it was done, whatever, or I'd like to go and see Mr. Salmon privately if that's okay with you. I'm a little bit concerned, so I don't want to have the second repeat done, but could you send me privately to Mr. Salmon? You write a private referral, set up a referral with Mr. Salmon to go see him at the Manor Hospital. Then you'd click that one and just say that you've referred them on. Number 3 of no action required is the patient is already under the care of an ophthalmologist for another condition, and a report has been sent to the ophthalmologist. So let's say they're under the care of Miss Downs or something like that. Everything else is normal. So this is just the repeat measurement, and then they're already under that care. What you can do is then just send a letter to Miss Downs saying, this is the pressures we found on the patient, and would you like it? It puts the responsibility on the ophthalmologist whether she wants to send them across for a glaucoma check with Mr. Salmon, or she just goes, well, actually, pressures of 21 in this patient I'm not too concerned about. So again, it's putting that referral through, but it's not creating a double referral. So it's just stopping any double referrals that don't need to be there. And then the last one is obviously this patient has previously been referred with raised pressures and may require ocular hypertensive monitoring according with the NICE standards. So last year I saw Mrs. Jackson, and exactly the same thing happened. I did the repeat measurements and she got referred in. She then got straight discharged back into community because they said her pressures were a little bit high, but it was because her central corneal thicknesses were X amount. But they decided not to put her into an ocular hypertensive monitoring system. Basically, NICE guidelines say that she needs to be on an ocular hypertensive monitoring system, and you're just informing the GP, and the GP can make their own decision on what they want to do. So obviously if it's the new patient, you're going to have to click the top one, but if it's a patient you've already seen, you can click that one, and just it puts that responsibility again back into the GP. Now you can add some comments onto this, so you can say, Mrs. Jackson came in last year. We did the repeat measurements. She referred to the eye hospital. They found her central corneal thickness to be a bit thick. Under NICE guidelines, I'm required to refer her back. These are the details, and you can do with what you want. But any other comments that you want to put in there, you can just type in some comments for the GP, whatever. And then obviously you're going to do your sign off again. Now basically, if you want to, this will send it automatically to the GP, so the fax will go directly to the GP, but you have an option to print it off, obviously for your own records, and if you want to send a copy to the GP. Alright. It is entirely up to you whether you post a second copy to the GP. As I said, I don't at the moment, because it does go through the fax, and I haven't had any problems with faxes. However, I only think I've referred 2 patients in total. All the rest have been fine. But if you're a little bit concerned, you can always print it off and send it to the GP as well. Alright. I would obviously hit the print button and print it out, and then we actually fax it onto the patient's record, so it's on their practice management software at the same time. And then if you go to view all or view active again, you'll notice that Mrs. Jackson has now disappeared, and I've only got one left on the system. And that's this one, which I'll go through in a second. Now if you go to, and I'm not sure this test site will work on this one, but view inactives. So Mrs. Jackson. Okay, I don't think it works, unfortunately, on the test site because it's not actually sending a fax out to them. But what you should find for Mrs. Jackson, because it should have sent a fax to the GP automatically, you should then have a little R next to it. Alright, so if I went to here, you'd have a little R next to it saying the referral was faxed successfully. It might not show up straight away because the webstar system has to send the fax, get a fax receipt information, and then a little R will pop up there, and then if you hit the referral delivery status, it would show you the patient that had been referred, and so if within the patient comes back to you and said, I've heard nothing from the GP in 2 weeks, you can check that the referral's been done, and you can then phone the GP and say, look, we sent this referral through, has anything been actioned with it, or just say to the patient, you phone the GP to make sure it's all been processed correctly. They might not just have contacted the patient there, but it's just that closing the loop to make sure that everything's being done correctly and such. Right. Now what I wanted to do is just go back to this final patient that I've got on here, so view actives. So it's me, and what happened was I came in for an IOP, had it done in April time. I didn't come back in for the second IOP. And after a month I said to my staff, look, this patient's not coming back for the IOP, could you set up a referral and I'll refer them in. So the staff did it, and it's awaiting my signature, but I never went back out on and edited it. Right? So I never actually closed the patient down. Now, it's a good that big A there is a good thing to remind you to do it. But if you leave it, what's going to happen for us when I go through and check the IOP refinements, and I get a printout every 3 months of everything that's happened, and I'm going through and auditing it, I can see those practitioners that have basically forgotten patients. Alright, and it just allows us then to give you a reminder, so we'd phone you up and say, look, you've got this patient on here, you haven't done anything with them. So it's just a foolproof. That's another check that will come through to me, who's auditing the system, to make sure that you're keeping up to date with all your patients. I don't think many people will forget. We have had one that got forgotten. Now I don't know why it was, but that was the only one. I think because it's got that big A on it, it's very difficult, because you always just look down the side there under your active patients. And if there's something there waiting for you to do, you just do it. But I don't know, maybe practitioner was away on a holiday for 2 months or something and they didn't do it. Popped up on my report, I could phone them and say, look, you've got a patient waiting in the system, they haven't been referred in, it's taking you too long to get these patients referred in. And I think currently under our system, all patients are referred, most of them are referred in within 4 weeks. So, we're doing a really good job with that as well. Alright. But basically you would then go on to this one. As I said, the staff had already filled it all in for me, and all I had done was do the sign-off bit, which was basically practitioner sign-off here, fill in here that I wanted it referred, put in my sign-off code, and sign off the patient, and then, I'd just forgotten, or I'd go away on holiday and I'd forgotten about it, but I hadn't done it, so it needed to be done on that. Alright, so that one's going to close that one off now. It's just going a little bit on go slow. And once that one's closed that one off, that's pretty much the software. That's pretty much as simple as it is. So you're going to add new patients again, add second IOPs, and you're going to do referrals. Now, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to just email me through, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can if you have any queries with them. Sorry, the other last thing that I didn't do is the invoices. So if you click on the invoices button here, it doesn't work on the test version. I'm just going to click across onto mine, cancel that one, and if I just go into the invoices here, now basically under the invoices section you can check your invoices that you've got. So we've got March, we've got June, September, December. It's quarterly that you get your invoices. Alright. If I search for the December one, there's the December one there. You can click on it, it's PDF. Now you'll notice with this, so for that section I'd only done 2 IOP referral refinements in that one, and if I go to this one, excellent, so that's got 2 there. Trying to find one that get more. There we go. There's 9 on that one there. So that one's got quite a few on it that I did during that period there. So I'm just going to close that one down. Now on this side there you'll see a report. Now the report, if you open it up, is going to have these codes on it, patient IDs. Now because this goes through to a patient payment system and they're not clinically involved in this, we can't put names on them, so obviously from data protection, so they just get a code put on them. But obviously you've got to be able to, at the end of it, because obviously if you put the payment onto their screen or something, you've got to be able to identify these payments, if I could put it that way. So they've got a patient ID on them, and you can then correlate that patient ID to the patient ID here, so that you know which ones have been paid on that. Alright, so I'm trying not to give away too many names on that one. But that's basically invoice. So you have the invoice on the one side. Let's go back to that, sorry. So you have the invoice on the one side, you have the report on the other. The invoice just is your payment, so you get paid by check. The other one is the report, so you can tick them off your list so you can balance at the end of the month, basically. So that's pretty much it. As I said, please don't hesitate to email me or phone me with any questions. My email address is paul@oxfordshireloc.org.uk, and I'll be happy to try and answer the questions as best as I can.